All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. It's a bit of an eerie vibe in the city of Toronto today. Bit of a vibe.
Yeah?
I would say a little bit gloomy. I mean, it feels like it's mid-July. The weather is absolutely perfect.
It is
perfect.
Yeah.
It
is
perfect.
And I had the greasiest thing before you talk about the gloomy. My gloom started today, probably the last Wednesday of golf, of nice weather. I have a standing tee time at 8 every Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And last night, the greasiest move of all time. I'm out tomorrow. And then the next guy, yeah, me too. Sorry, busy. Then the third guy, yeah, me too. And I'm just like, really, 10 o'clock the night before. I was scrambling, begging people to meet me on the first tee at 8, and didn't lost friends today.
Yeah, that's disappointing, man. That is disappointing.
And then on top of that, I got all your burner accounts writing me, hey, is this right about Ovechkin?
I saw that. Is this Bill Hayes?
Yeah, Bill Hayes burner accounts just coming after me. I'm like, it's positive debate. You think so? I tell your people to back off.
Well, he's got supporters.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute here.
Wait a minute.
No. Let's be clear here.
Whatever those loser minions are, just tell them to bug off.
My Ovechkin take, I am clearly in the minority here. Me stating on the record, and I stand by it, I did not have him as a projected top 50 player in the NHL this year.
Hey, you know what? You probably got yours too.
Oh, I got a ton of them. People writing me saying, that's the worst take I've ever heard. You should lose your job over it. Someone suggested I should be fired.
I love that one.
Imagine if Jeff McDonald walked in and was like,
I'm sorry, your pass card, please pass it. HR is outside. That OV take was horrendous. We can't have you associated with TSN anymore. And it's an opinion. It's a projection. What was revealed today? 21 through 30 came out, right? And now we're getting into the thick of it in terms of players that I think everyone would have on their list.
Top-tier players, yeah.
Right? There's no surprises, but there is people are going to differentiate between whether or not Karlsson should be 21, should Hedman be higher, Barkov be higher. Your boy Ilya Sorokin is at 26. He might be the best goalie in the world. 26. We'll slide him in.
Buddy, what about Erik Karlsson? He was the best defenseman on the planet last year, and he's 21.
But it's projection.
It's this year, right?
He's a classic boomer bust. I wouldn't be shocked if he wasn't in the top 50.
Let me just sort this out before we continue to move forward. Okay, what are you doing after watching him last year, projecting he's going to be worse?
Was he in the top 50 last year? No,
he wasn't.
Because guess what happened? The guy was floating around San Jose. He was, he wasn't bringing enough to the table. Last year he had a remarkable season, but now he's moving to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but dude, after watching him last year, how are you not projecting great things?
I have him in my top 50.
He was in
Let
my
me clarify something.
There.
I'm just saying it wouldn't be shocking if he missed. Right, Noodles? Can you speak? Can you please speak on this?
What we're looking at with Erik Karlsson is, you're right. Like, he is a guy who is literally, the best player on the planet, arguably, or has been off the map.
Boomer bust.
Exactly. Boomer bust. It was a lot of bust in San Jose due to health and to do that team being light years away from where, competing right now. So off the map, I definitely had him on for next year or this season because change of scenery. He's going to get a lot of touches with a lot of quality players. I think he will be a top tier player if he's healthy. In San Jose, I would have had him on, but I could see him a year from now being off because it's okay, he's back to 68 points.
It happens every single year. There are players that filter in and filter out, and that's. But we're not talking McDavid here. We're talking about players who are.
The only thing in defense of Erik Karlsson, and this is where I need to check myself on this too. Wow. When this guy is healthy, he's one of the best.
Sure.
And he's healthy now.
He proved that.
So that's where, I can make the argument. I called games. I was calling games. Erik Karlsson, we were on this show arguing, could he be the third best player on the planet?
That was years ago.
2017,
Let's clarify. Years
2017,
ago.
that was. He made that saucer pass to Mike Hoffman in the playoffs.
Against Boston. It's not the case anymore.
Right.
I just find it bizarre, guys. And once again, it's the same as Ovi. What you're doing is ignoring greatness. No, it is. It is. Okay. Erik Karlsson was the best defenseman on the planet, and you guys go back to your cottages in the summer and you say, big chance he could take a dump in his shorts this year, so let's fire him up at 21. It's crazy behavior.
The only thing I would defend why he might have dropped was, okay, even if there's a reset and he gets 82 points, he's still amazing. I've had this comment, and I believe in it wholeheartedly, and we'll see as the list gets laid out. There's some young players that are starting to push through. Jack Hughes, I know I've said it 10 times on this show already. He's a guy.
I had him in my top 10.
That's what I mean.
9, I think.
But this guy is going to be a guy that is habitually in that top 10, and you're going to see a top 10er push out.
Well, Barkov's an example of that. I think Victor Hedman's an example. I mean, Hedman is on the list. He's behind Karlsson. I had him ahead of Karlsson on my list. I think Hedman is still closer to his prime. I know what Karlsson did last year. I think Hedman has a big bounce-back year with a long offseason that he hasn't had in a long time. It's splitting hairs, though. It doesn't matter. Karlsson's 21, Hedman's 23.
Hedman went from 6 to 23.
Exactly. He was in the top 10 last year, and now that's what happens. Every year you have ups and downs. It's what have you done for me lately?
On this list alone, from 21 to 30, there's 4 not rated guys last year.
Exactly.
So we're talking about young players. Tim Stützle had 90 points last year.
Right.
Dahlin is a hell of a player. It took him a little longer to arrive, but he's arrived. Sorkin, we just talked about it. Heiskanen, top-tier player. Look at Eichel going up. It's interesting. And then you'll see guys start to dip. Roman Josi, 13.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Josi has been like a 90-point guy the last few years.
Led his team in scoring all the time.
Again, once you get into that level of a top 50, you're splitting hairs. It's not an insult if a guy's 23 and the other guy's 22. It might be insulting if you're completely omitted from the list. If you're, in my case, Alex Ovechkin, but
you took some heat. I was tracking.
There were a lot of people that were jumping on the bandwagon. And again, the explanation was he's 38 and it's a projection on what this year will be.
Yeah.
Not what he was 10 years ago or 2 or 3 years ago. Anyway, we got Steve Phillips coming up here in a moment. As I was saying off the top, kind of a gloomy vibe here where it feels like...
What's going on here?
Well... yesterday was a perfect example, and we were on the air for a lot of it, and I had the craziest experience. I'm sure you guys had the same thing. We got off the air. We were doing the show from home. I walk upstairs. I had the TV already on, and I literally watched Vladdy rope a double. And I'm like, there it is, opposite field, and Vladdy's fired up. He's going nuts. He's ready to rock. This is what they need. It's a 3-1 game. You got the heart of the lineup. And Vladdy's done what he's supposed to do. Here comes Bo. Then here comes Kevin Biggio. Then here comes Alejandro Kirk. This is the time to pounce. This is the moment that we had been talking about for months. It's all irrelevant in the regular season if you flip the switch in the playoffs. If you find the clutch gene in the playoffs. And you can't ask for a better situation. Game 1 of a wild card, 8th inning, man on second, nobody out, with Bichette, Biggio, Kirk coming up. You can't.
What is that when
and
you
it was
have those
awful,
guys?
the three of them. Horrible at bats.
How do you describe that's gone on all season? Finally, one guy. It's just say, how many times have you heard Hedge and Scotty Mitch say, the offense was just abysmal again with runners in scoring position? They played that clip on SportsCenter. It was like a replay all year.
You could play the same clip
play it
all year.
All year. It's like every time Scotty says that, he's like, and again, runners in scoring position, terrible. So we all talk about how talented they are offensively. So what is it? Are they all choking at the same time? I mean, I don't get it. And I found one other thing bizarre, Hayes, yesterday. I found some of Gausman's comments to be a little bit bizarre when he's like, I guess they're on to me.
I agree. I felt that. I couldn't believe
I could not believe he
admitted
literally said, the book is out on me. I'm a 2-pitch pitcher, and they know they sit on the fastball. I was almost in awe. I was watching. I'm like, is this guy mocking us? It was almost as if he was being sarcastic. He had to be sarcastic because
I was like, dude, really, man? That doesn't float any kind of belief through the
book
locker.
is out on me.
They got the book on me, and they just sat and waited out that splitter and waited for heaters and smashed them out of the park. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? So that's it? How did you have such a great year if the book's out on you when you're a 2-pitch? He goes, I'm only a 2-pitch guy. Yeah. I got the splitter and the heater, and they just waited on the heater.
Absolutely bizarre.
It was a weird comment.
Bizarre.
Especially at that time. You've come off a loss. It's not good. You're like, yeah, I guess the reason I lost is, they figured me out.
The book's out. Yeah, the book's out. Like, it's almost like, hey, what do you want out of me? Like, everyone knows what they're supposed to do against me, and they just sat on pitches.
Well, the grappler was right then.
He was right about that. There was another thing that happened today. Like that, again, I just don't have positive vibes around this team. It feels like this is a real watershed moment here. Like the next 24 hours should be incredibly detrimental one way or the other in terms of the foundation of this organization because Atkins has been the man in charge for a long time. If they lose today, that means he'll be on the job, I believe, for 8 years, and they haven't won a playoff game. Like with his team. Like he would have been there, I guess, in 2016, I believe, when they did win some games. Right. But that was Anthopoulos' team. That was not his team. Right. This is his team. This is Shapiro and Atkins' team. They lose again today, you're talking no playoff success for a long, long time. But the Gausman comments, really concerning. The at-bats in the 8th where, like, Bichette's at-bat was horrendous. Biggio goes down looking, which you cannot do in the major leagues in a playoff game. You cannot sit on a pitch when you're down an account like that. And then Kirk comes up, slaps it, doesn't even get out of the box. Like, he basically turned around and said, where's my gear? I'm going to go and get behind home plate. It was an awful at-bat. But today, and I don't know who asked this question, and I have no idea why it would have been asked. Someone asked Matt Chapman about his free agency today, which to me is like absurd.
Like the season over.
Yeah, exactly.
That's you do at the end of the season.
So the question,
mean a reporter?
Someone asked him in the scrum about his time in Toronto and his pending free agency, which again doesn't scream journalism 101. But what I have a bigger issue with is he answered it.
Oh, my God.
What the hell is Matt Chapman? Like, that is a scenario where you look at the guy and say, are you insane?
I'm in the playoffs here.
What are you asking me that for? I will address that later in the season here, like later in the month when we're in the World Series.
I want to hear it.
Fake it to make it. Yeah, I've just seen the quotes on Twitter. But if we can find it, Grapples, let's try to find it. But and it was such a weird. I really enjoyed my time.
Was that a
Toronto.
Minnesota scribe though?
I'm thinking it must have been national media.
Must have been a plant.
Must have been someone like on a national level.
That's not Hayes.
I think Matt Chapman's a good guy, but when someone does something like that, and don't think I'm crazy, guys, because I've seen dumber things happen. It's almost like the player sniffs out the end and he tells some guy to fire it out to him. I'm telling you, don't think that's crazy. Like, hey, do me a favor and ask me about my future in the scrum. And then the guy just, what about free agency? And he's like, well, I'm glad you, like, it's just, that's not a crazy idea.
Under his breath, he mumbled that to somebody.
But here, I would appreciate it if it was a setup for him to blow a gasket.
Yeah.
Hey, pose the question, and I'm going to snap and make sure everyone knows
that I care.
I'm still playing here, and
Yeah.
I'll play for free, and the free agency is irrelevant to me. I saw it online. I could not believe the question was posed, and then Chapman answered it. Yeah, it's been great ever since we got here, and I'd like to stick around, and we'll take a look at that.
I'm telling you, behind the scenes, that might be. I'll send a couple corn dogs up, and you just fire that question.
It might be.
Don't worry about it.
But between Gausman's kind of nonchalant, the book is out. Chapman's talking about free agency.
Goofy, dude.
It's goofy. It's goofy, and it's not a good vibe. I mean, I'm sorry. Like Minnesota, talk about goofy. They had not won a playoff game in 19 years, and it had been 18 in a row. Who finally supplies them with the end of the streak?
Hazy.
The Jays.
Yeah.
Kevin Gausman and the Blue Jays.
When Gausman said that, I actually had to hit rewind. Like on
I
the
did
PV.
too. I
and
couldn't
I'm like,
believe it.
I gotta hear that guy again.
I couldn't believe it. I was watching the post game.
And he floats out. Now the book's out on me. I'm a 2-pitch guy. I got a splitter and a heater, and they waited on the splitter all night. And one guy smashed my heater out of the park twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
It was
cool analysis.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I'm watching. I'm like, this can't be serious. He's got to be joking, or it's got to be tongue in cheek, or Like, how was the question phrased? Did someone say, clearly the book's out on you? And then he was like, all right, you think so? Like that, I guess I could
For
understand.
him to offer it up.
But for him to be like, nah, book's out. I got rocked. Because what if they get through here and they reset in the DS?
No kidding.
Like Houston, the book will be out. Houston,
They'll be banging on garbage.
They'll be banging on garbages and sitting on fastballs.
What's he going to come up with some kind of special new pitch before then?
I don't know. You got to write a new chapter, come up with a new book, put a new spin on
that
it.
was
You know what
weird,
could
man.
solve a lot of this is win tonight. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like win tonight, and then because right now we're looking at it and going, it's not great, and didn't love it, and your back's up against the wall. And if they lose tonight, and it's not good, is this where you start to look at management and go?
I would think, based on the history of sports, someone is going to be under the gun. That doesn't mean there will be change.
Right.
It's,
got to answer for it.
But exactly, like some sort, because, again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. It's not like Minnesota's some juggernaut. It's not like the Jays. It's not like they were awful yesterday. Their bats let them down again.
Right.
They can't hit for power. They can't get clutch hitting with runners in scoring position. Gausman struggled, but still, they only put
Hicks
3 on the board.
got himself out of that.
Absolutely. And Meza was good. Swanson was good. Like, the bullpen held strong. So,
Right.
and it's. I thought this was going 3. I said yesterday I thought the Jays in 3. So I'm not surprised that they lost one of the first 2 games, and I think they are more than capable, clearly, of winning today and winning tomorrow. But if it falls off, then everything's going to flare up about what went wrong here. Like, and it doesn't help from Atkins' perspective. You have Dalton Varsho out there playing the way he's played all year, and Gaby Marino is hitting bombs in playoff games.
Yeah.
And, Gurriel's doing what he's been doing. And
that might kind of
that one hurts. Marino being who we believe he's going to be and what he's already been. And more so, not that the reasoning behind the trade didn't make sense. It's that Varsho hasn't pulled his weight.
Right.
Like, it's and the GM ends up taking heat for that because he acquired him and he put his neck out for him. But you got to think he's looking at Varsho saying, can you snap out of something here? Like, please supply us with something. And that trade just does not look great. But it does feel like after all this time, the next 24 to 30 hours has the potential to really have a ripple effect on what this team is going to be about for the next, 3 to 5 years.
We'll see tomorrow we'll be having a conversation.
One way or the
about,
other.
Exactly. Like,
One way
we'll
or the
figure it
other.
out to see if they lose tonight, then they'll kind of be like, shine a light on everything.
Yes.
Like, we're breaking down every player, every situation, every comment. If not, if they win, it's like, okay, here we go. Teeing up a third
exactly.
game,
Exactly.
so.
And it's not, you're down 1 game. You have to win 2 in a row. They've done that many times this year.
Yeah.
Minnesota, you got Sonny Graham mound for the Twins. He's had a really good year. He's obviously a good pitcher. You got the same lineup going up, though. He's a right-hander. It's going to be a similar profile. Let's see what you got. And, at some point, clearly, the offense has got to snap out of it. Like, even if Barrios gives you a great outing today, and the bullpen is still going to be relatively everyone's going to be available short of Gausman. Schneider said that after the game. Even if they've got to go to Bassett quick, if they go to Kikuchi quick, whatever it's going to be, you're do or die at this point.
Right.
But any arm that came out yesterday, Swanson, Meza, Hicks, they're available today. But if you don't produce runs, it's all irrelevant.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's who you were through 162 games. It's good enough to get in. It's good enough for 89 wins, but it's been the same story all year, and it really flared up last night. And it's got to change tonight because it's do or die. So, Jays, Twins coming up later this hour. We're trying to track down our boy Steve Phillips. We're not sure if Steve is available. He is probably pretty busy right now.
I don't know I don't know what it is about the Jays, but I felt the same thing last year to some degree. When I go to the Phillies, and the atmosphere in Philly is outrageously good in the playoffs, okay? And the Phillies just have this look about them where they just look like grown-ass men out there. They got these crazy beards. They got long hair. They just look grizzled and ready to just get the job done. And then you're seeing, like, just you go to the Jays, and it's like, I don't know. Are they fired up? I don't know. It seems like nobody can come through in the clutch. Last night with the Phillies, it's like clutch hit, clutch defensive play. It's like, I don't know. They just look like they're cut out for it, like they're made for it. And sometimes the Jays, the last several years, I don't know if it's youth, inexperience, but there's a bunch of guys that aren't that.
Well, who's the
that aren't that, and that's what it kind of looks like when they come to the
Harper
field.
That Harper's an animal.
Yeah, but he's not alone. Like that you look at that lineup in Philly, they battle counts. Like again, I'm harping on the 8th inning,
right?
But that was horrendous. It was a horrendous approach. They didn't even take a ball, I don't believe. After Vladdy got on, I want to say it was like 7 pitches. Kirk was one and done. Bichette, I think, was out on 3 strikes. And the third one, he went chasing, was basically in the dirt. Yeah. Like, that's not, we talked to Maurer about it yesterday. Everyone understands this, playoff baseball. You've got to work counts. Right. You've got to be patient. You cannot chase it. And they've been impatient all year. You were hoping that at some point the game plan might change, and it hasn't. Now we're tracking this Rays game. Texas is up 5-0. Halfway through the 5th. It feels like it. Tampa's not produced a run. They got skunked 4-0 yesterday. They're down 5-0 today. Do you see there were 19,000 people at the Trop yesterday? 19,000. I'm pretty sure that's the lowest attendance since like 1919 for a playoff game.
That is concerning.
Yeah, I would think.
Like I said, that crowd
concerning.
in Philly last night. That was outrageous. Like, it was unreal.
Yeah, it's and listen, Tampa stinks as a sports town. Florida in general, like it just
Tampa stinks as a sports town.
Yes, they do. They do. I mean, they stink as a sports town.
Hold on a second.
Put me on the record.
No, do not get. Please don't go on the record.
I will happily go on the record.
Now
what
you're
are you
just
talking
they've
about.
won cups down there. They've got
yeah, but that's the teams. I'm talking about the fans. Before Brady showed up, do you think anyone was going to Tampa Bay Buccaneer games? Nobody.
Full every
No, it
game.
wasn't. It was a joke. No one was going.
You're going to have to
the Rays stink.
Because at some point, this is going to come back to bite. Like,
I'm telling you, Tampa is not a good sports town. It's not. The state of Florida,
Dude,
I don't think they show up.
Your mentions, you're going to shut down your Twitter account.
We got a big following.
You're going to shut down your Twitter account.
You know what it is?
I've taken on New Jersey.
This is the New Jersey, Arizona.
I'll take
now
on
into Tampa. You are just taking on market.
Then explain 19,000 people at a playoff game.
That's terrible.
Explain that.
I believe, like, when it comes to like baseball, for some reason, I don't know. Oh, you've been to the games there. Like, it's just a weird vibe there. Like, I don't know if people are interested in it. I just don't know.
But I could have rephrased it. Tampa's not a baseball town.
Yeah, I think that's because it's a pretty good hockey market. I will tell you
to say that it
stinks
as a sports town. I can't wait to get Coop on. John Cooper will call him up and see what he has.
Oh, is he a native of Tampa? Like Coop's Canadian?
He's just coached the team to a couple NHL championships.
Yeah, that's. I'm not saying that they won't jump on a bandwagon. When Brady showed up, they sold a lot of tickets. All of a sudden, the Bucs became popular. Now you got Baker Mayfield, who's been a stud, by the way, and you owe him an apology. The Bucs are 3-1. All of you do. I've always supported Baker.
No, you haven't. Well, you didn't for a bit
dude,
there.
You roasted that guy. You said he was the biggest moron playing quarterback in the NFL. I remember you said it.
I don't think I've said that.
I called him a hero.
Listen,
he was a hero.
It hasn't been a great run for Baker, but to his credit, he's settled in well there. Yeah. He's played well. They're 3-1. You have some numbers for us, Grappler? In terms of what? The Buccaneers and league-wide attendance?
Well, it looks as though so in 2019, before Tom Brady joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, their average game attendance was just over 50,000 people per game. 2020 is a bit of a wash because COVID. 2021, when fans were allowed back in, 65,000. 2022, 68,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Brady showed up.
Tom Brady, 15,000 people.
That's right. Exactly. Brady showed up. Prior to Brady showing up, people didn't show up.
But at 50,000 people, it's not like it was 5. Like 19,000.
You play 8 home games a year.
For a playoff game, 19,000.
Pathetic.
It's terrible. There's no... What I think you
clicks,
should
Noodles.
you should refresh.
Yes.
The contrarian here is just
talking about Tampa. That really sells in Toronto. You think anyone's driving around being like, "Oh, this is wild stuff"? And nobody cares about Tampa up here.
Hold on a second.
Who cares about Tampa?
Why with plaques? New Jersey's
Why are you guys so reluctant to call a spade when it comes to Tampa. What about Tampa?
Because
You know why, you bozo? This is why. Because they won a Super Bowl
Yes,
a
that's
year
the
and a half
team.
ago.
That's the
okay,
team.
But to say it's not a sports town and nobody cares about sports,
I said it's
ridiculous.
not a great sports town. I didn't say nobody does.
I think what you should have said for baseball, it's not a baseball town.
Well, clearly,
Because
there's
it's hockey
19,000
and-
people.
It's hockey
Well,
and football.
that's the part of the equation here. What is your definition of a sports town? So Toronto doesn't win anything, but we're just an awesome sports town?
Yeah,
Because what?
The
'Cause
sports town, the definition of the town is
where
the
the hell were
people.
the fans in the series against Texas? Nobody on the radio
Yeah,
said Toronto's a garbage
They had
sports
3 million people roll through those turnstiles this year. 3 million went to the Rogers Center. There was a massive fan response down at the Rogers Center. And if there was a playoff game, it would be 50,000 people.
Yeah,
in
there would.
Like, no
it
question.
would be supported. I agree. But
19,000. You
you
guys can't talk your way out of this.
I'm not
19,000.
talking my way out of it. I think for baseball, 100%. I just disagree on
That's
hockey.
it.
'Cause I
Can't
think
you
they're-
just
they're a really
can't you
good
just go
hockey
with that?
market. I
Maybe
really
it's
do.
not. You could have said maybe it's not a baseball town.
The Bucks, man, I'm telling you, before Brady showed up,
50,000. Like, that's a big number. It's not
it
like
is,
it was
but
5.
it's an NFL game. The stadium probably holds 70,000 people.
Well, I mean,
And the Lightning, listen, because they're great and they go to the Cup every year, of course it's going to. Do you think Tampa would be selling out every single game if they were brutal for a decade?
I don't know.
And that's unfair. I get it. It's tough for every market to constantly do that. But
Well, it's
we're like you guys are talking about Tampa as if it's Chicago or Philly or New York.
No,
It's not.
I just think it's. I don't disagree on baseball. I do disagree on the other sports. Like they've been there for years. Like even when I played against the Tampa Bay Lightning when they weren't that good of a team, they showed up like that. There's a hockey market there, and I think it's because people moved there from northern states, from Canada. So I think there's a lot of people that go watch hockey in Tampa. Like as far as
Yes,
it's a
lot
market
of-
there.
Yes, a
Let's
lot
hear
of
this,
Canadians.
Hazy.
You're
Let's
right.
hear this, Hazy.
You're right.
You were confused by Matt Chapman. The question, Joe from the Bridge. Let's hear this.
So many guys, when they go to the Blue Jays for the first time, they fall in love with the city, the organization. What do you know about the city and organization now that you didn't know before, and you open to coming back?
Yeah, of course. I think that it was always fun as a road player coming in. It was always fun to go to a new country and experience a new way of baseball. But I think the thing I enjoy the most, besides my teammates and being here in the city is just how well the organization takes care of their players. They really care about your players, and there's nothing that they wouldn't do for you. So I have a lot of respect for everybody in this organization, and definitely open to coming back.
Okay. Grappler's saying that there's a different clip too, right, Grabs, that we were looking for, that we were referencing?
No, that was incorrect information I was feeding in your ear. So
Oh, okay.
I'll
Thank
just-
you, Grappler.
Yeah, I'll just turn my mic off.
All right. Well, still, listen, that sounds like what we were discussing, does it not? Like he answers with, I'm open to come. Like, why are you even discussing your free agency? You're about to play the biggest game of the season.
It was almost like he brought it up, and it wasn't really intertwined into the question. I don't know.
But even the question is bizarre. What does it matter? The guy got here a year ago. Like, why is this some big? Hey, I'm writing a story on
it's
your
Bizarro
arrival
world.
in Toronto.
It's Bizarro. Why isn't he saying, "What do you guys got to do to get a hit"?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. All right. So now people are saying the Tampa take is my worst take. Hunter tweeted saying Tampa is a much better sports town than Toronto. You think Toronto? Tampa
And
only
nobody
jumps on
cares
a
about
bandwagon
Tampa up here. Nobody cares about Tampa
Add
up here.
that to the list.
We have to put together a list
His
like
most ignorant comments.
Well,
Just the top 10 ignorant comments.
top 10 polarizing comments.
Mm-hmm.
Polarizing, where it's the hall is a bunch of what is it? The
It's a
baseball hall
room
of-
with some plaques
It's a
in
hall
it,
with some plaques in there.
but there's context.
Yes,
Again,
context.
I can't.
New Jersey,
I'm adamant about that context. Jersey, I stand by. Jersey, I stand
Arizona.
by. Tampa, I stand by.
Arizona. There's a few comments.
Arizona State University. Come on. The Arizona State University Coyotes
Don't say
finished ahead of the Montreal Canadiens.
Honest to God, it's like
Making friends.
I love it.
Making
This is
friends.
awesome.
Although I'm getting a lot of support here, too. People pointing out, college football in Florida is big. High school football. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you put 19,000 at a playoff game, that's not a good look.
No,
that's just not a good
you
look.
Can't
You
defend
could have
that.
left it at that.
There's
You
no
could have
defending.
left it at that.
All right, fine. There you go. Everyone loves Tampa up here. I'm not sure why, but everyone loves Tampa. And nobody cares about Tampa up here. Apparently, that is wrong. People do care, including you two, Canadians. You guys loved it. Last time I checked, neither of you played for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Got friends down there.
You got friends?
Yep.
Yeah. Shout out to Coop.
Yeah, exactly.
Love John Cooper.
Well, we can't play that when he comes on.
Yeah, but he's not from Tampa, and his
From
building's
St. Louis,
full.
I believe, isn't it? Well, he's
Canadian.
Canadian, but he spent a lot of time in St. Louis, I believe.
Yeah, he's a BC guy, I think, John Cooper.
Yeah.
This guy writes in and says, "This guy's an absolute joke. It's not easy to see through that he's purposely trying to get reactions, except he has no balls and makes weird takes and gets no traction."
Oh, really? No traction. Who said that?
I'm not.
That's your burner account. That's
No, it isn't.
No,
That
that's
is.
you
That's
who probably
Tux.
said
Why
that.
is Tux
Idiot.
talking like that?
It's a Twitter account. It's called A1 Day One.
I blocked that guy years ago. He's an idiot.
Oh, there you go.
Here's Dave writing in. You're 100% right about Tampa. When the
Dave,
team stinks,
that's your
it's
best
dead
buddy,
arenas
Dave.
and stadiums.
Well,
No?
Craig wrote in too. Hazy's right. Tampa Bay
Yep.
sucks.
Dom tweeting in. You're 100% correct.
Well, you
I got a lot of support on
you do
this.
have-
And nobody cares about Tampa up here. I got a lot of support here.
Wow.
A lot of support.
Well, we
All
had
right.
to push back.
Jays, and they're not even playing the Rays. We're talking about Tampa, but Tampa's getting smoked. Jays versus the Twins. We'll keep our eye on that. The Leafs are up in Gravenhurst. They're back in action tomorrow. There was an adjustment. The lines, we're talking lines.
Here we go.
There was an adjustment at Leaf practice. We'll tell you about it. We'll get into it next. All right, Jason Strudwick will join us at 5 o'clock. In about a half an hour, we'll catch up with Struddy. We got Jerry's percentages in about an hour. Steph was sending you a text, possibly a good
Yes.
idea for later this week.
Well, Steph sends a note saying that we've got to do some of these hot takes in a segment called, remember we used to do Hazy B or Hazy B Quiet? We might have to go through that.
We can bring that back. You want to bring
You
that
want-
back later
You want
this
to do that
week?
on Friday, maybe? Hazy B? Or just the hot takes
But
even
is
from this
JP
week.
going to be able to comb through all that stupidity? Like, he's going to have to sit in that back room for days.
Hey, listen, I stand by my opinion. It's Tampa is what it is. Jersey is what it is. The Hall, maybe I'd want that one back.
You know what we'll have to do? Here's what we'll have to do.
The Hall you want to give
might
me
want
on-
the
We'll
Hall
have to
back.
just go with the ones that we know you've said and just re-record them, and we'll react to them.
Sure. I'm happy to do that. I'll add a few more on top if you
There's
want.
got to be a few from you. When you had your own show there for 4 hours,
Oh, it
there
was
had to have
crazy.
been. I swear I remember you arguing with yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you would change your opinion like segment to segment.
Yeah. Sometimes, man, if you get a situation where it's like you got 4 hours, we're open this hour, the guest didn't call,
Yeah.
and
All of a sudden you're just yelling and screaming.
you got to
about
work up something, man. You got to bring something to the table. I needed that sound every
Oh,
once in a while.
Roman writing in, 100% Hayes is correct. Tampa's a brutal sports town.
Wow.
I bet half the people at Lightning games are Canadian too.
Well, there might be truth in that. I think there probably
It's all
is.
in the eye of the beholder as well. Like people live down there. They're like, okay, you go to different markets, you get a feeling. Like I've lived in a lot of markets, and I could, I lived in Minnesota, for example. I really felt like Minnesota was a hockey state, hockey town. Like they should have never lost a team. I don't know what happened there. I can't remember, but they should have never. Like that's a hockey crazy market. I don't know how much the baseball team gets followed. I don't know. I'm sure the Vikings get followed. Like
Yes.
but for hockey, they were hockey crazy.
Well, someone sent in a tweet that I think brings a good point up about, the nature of a sports market is how much those fans travel.
Oh yeah.
Or, how much that brand expands beyond even the city.
Right.
And
Because the guy wrote in and said the Leafs, Jays, and
Yeah,
Raps fans all
they're
travel
everywhere.
well.
They travel well, they're
is
everywhere.
Dallas a sports town? Like a sports,
yeah, I think Dallas is.
but it'd be because of the Cowboys.
Cowboys
correct?
are a big part of it for sure.
That's a big
I mean,
brand
the
that
Stars.
travels.
Yeah, I mean, the Rangers are in Arlington. The Mavericks, I think, do well. Like in Dallas, is a big market.
Right.
Anyway,
That's why I wanted to separate the sports because, one sport could maybe not do so well because it hasn't had success or it just doesn't have, for the longest time. Now, the Raptors win a championship. How were they leading up to that
Toronto,
market?
I think is different because there's so many people here and there's so much money here too. Like
Right.
that's another thing that factors in. There's a lot of business. There's and a lot of times fans can't get in because the tickets are given away to big companies and they hand them out or they don't show up. Anyway, listen, the Jays are playing the Twins. They're fighting for their lives. The Rangers are up 7-0 on Tampa.
Wow.
Looks like Tampa, who won 99 games this year, are going to get skunked at home, out. See you later. Texas was fighting for their lives to even make the playoffs.
There's your Cinderella story right now so far.
Absolutely. And then they're going to play Baltimore. And yet, Texas had the number one offense in baseball all year. They've had injuries to their rotation. They were winning the AL West basically all season, and then it just fell off for them. But we'll keep tracking that. The Leafs are up in Gravenhurst. You see William Nylander back on right wing today. William Nylander, after all that, 2 weeks of experimenting, they don't even get to the regular season. And Willie's
I
line
don't
center
know
then?
what it's about.
Who's the center? Like, where's
Fraser Minten is the guy that it sounds like has the inside track. Because Keefe was asked about Minten and, does he have a chance of making it? And Keefe basically said, if you're still here, you have a chance to make it.
Okay, well, hold on a second here. Bobby McMahon, Kampf, and Reeves is not your third line.
That's your fourth line.
That's your fourth line.
The third line would be Minten with Yarncroke and Nyes. That's who skated today. Again, you're still a week away. They don't have to make any proclamations or announcements.
Whoever did that lineup, Joe from the Bridge, switch those lines. Like, switch them.
Yeah.
Just for my visual pleasure.
Right. But, listen, I don't know if
Yarncroke
Bobby
back?
McMahon's making the team for sure, but Kampf and Reeves are making the team. Yarncroke and Nyes, I think, are making the team. The question is, does McMahon make it? Does Minten make it?
I think
does
Gregor makes it
Noah
over.
Gregor?
Gregor makes it over McMahon for me right now.
Yeah.
Is Yarncroke, where's his status at?
He's, I think, skating again. And
Right.
Sam Lafferty's going to make the team. He's got a guaranteed contract. He's a vet. He's playing. But
Yeah.
I think with, and Keefe just said, listen, it's about moving things around. It doesn't mean that Nylander won't go back to the middle of the ice at some point in camp. But I've been very impressed by Fraser Minten. I think he's played very well. He looks like he's a mature 19-year-old. Keefe pointed out he put him up against Doc. He put him up against Suzuki. He wanted to test him in Montreal, and he thought he did well.
Yeah.
Dude, they're just saying
but he's
to him,
19.
it's,
I don't think he
it's
starts
awfully
the season
difficult.
here, or maybe he does, but
And we talked about it with all three of those kids. Nyes has been unbelievable. He's going to make the team. The kid's going to go back to London. If is he already
Easton
back there?
Cowan. No, he's still there. He's not in Gravenhurst for some reason, but he's still technically with the team. But I think he will go back to London probably
So
this
they're
weekend.
basically saying to both of these kids, like, if it was a competition, like who played the best, Fraser Minten would be on the team because he's played better than other guys. But it's just with contract stuff and his age, he's still most likely going back to junior. But maybe they're sitting there watching this guy saying he's been so good. Maybe he's just ready to play. Who knows?
I
think
too.
it's unlikely it's going to happen, but they've been so impressed. They're just probably looking at him saying, God, we got to give this guy another game. Maybe he's ready to play.
which is
dicey
fine. And
decision.
you know what? If you play well at training camp and you're earning a spot, or at least like, hey, another look, good on you. Like this is a positive thing to have as young
Exactly.
players pushing through, because that's what organizations are dying for. Young guy on an entry-level deal, pushing out a guy so that you can also manage your cap, but it also cycle through players. Like this
Noodles,
is
how many
and
times have
developing.
you seen a guy 2 days in camp, just look at him and you're like, this guy is just no way. In
Well,
2 days, it's like go back to junior.
You know what concerns me on that list? Was Nick Robertson on that list?
I did not see him on that list.
I didn't see him on that list either. Like that's the guy that I start to circle and go, what year is this in the organization for him? Now, COVID injuries have put it back.
It's 3 or 4 at least.
So, like, that's the guy who, if he's on the cusp and hasn't stolen a spot or pushed somebody out, that concerns me because you can go down and
He is waiver exempt still.
right. So you can go down, you can play and battle. So, it says extras: Robertson, Clifford, absent Klingberg.
Right.
So
Well,
Robertson and Clifford.
I'm not sure. I don't think Robertson's going to make the team unless there's injuries. I don't think that's going to happen. But
Right.
if Nylander goes back to the wing, There are two people that are possibly three. I think Willie might be very happy about that too. He's comfortable on the wing. He had a career year last year. John Tavares will be ecstatic, and if Max Domi has a chance to play with them, he will be ecstatic because he's on a 1-year deal. He's obviously new to the team. He's familiar with the team, with the city, and he understands the platform and the spotlight he's got. And lines are subject to change, especially with Sheldon Keefe, the way he coaches. But if Domi gets a chance to start his Maple Leaf career with Tavares and Nylander, you cannot ask for anything better than that.
Yeah.
Like he and Bertuzzi. If Bertuzzi's playing with Matthews and Marner and Domi's playing with Tavares and Nylander, those two guys, that's why they came here. That's why they signed the 1-year deals, because they wanted that opportunity, and it's on them to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Joe, leave that board up there. And I think Hayes and Noodles, if you ask the coach, like if he had to make a decision for opening day and there was kind of a must-win game in the future, and you ask Sheldon Keefe, who would you rather put in the lineup like tomorrow? Like, is it Noah Gregor or Fraser Minten or Nick Robertson or Clifford or Bobby McMahon or Lafferty? It's probably Fraser Minten because he's just played that well. I think if you ask the coach, he would say, I probably want that guy in my lineup. I could trust him more, and he could do more for me to help me win a game as of right now.
Well, I mean, what will be challenged here, and every team's got to deal with it, especially competitive teams with cup aspirations, is how do you balance what's in the best interest for the team and what's in the best interest for the player?
Right.
Because if Nylander's going to the right wing, they're thin up the middle of the ice. Like, they have three guys they love, clearly. They love Matthews, they love Tavares, and they love Camp as a fourth liner.
Right.
But who else is there that can play up the middle of the ice? Domi can.
That's
Nylander
the
can.
player
Domi and
solves.
Nylander
The player
can.
answers the question for you. Fraser Minten would answer that question for you by continued good play.
You're
just
right.
I keep going back to the kid in Dallas. Like, that kid looked like a junior hockey player, Wyatt Johnston.
Yeah.
And it's like they must have been saying, "Oh, I got to send," and they were watching him playing like, we can't get rid of this guy.
Yeah. Well,
He's got to play.
Hopefully it kills two birds with one stone. If it happens,
The only thing
where
is-
they need someone up the middle of the ice, but he's got to be ready, and
That's
he can
exactly
hit the
right.
ground running, and
And he can't play. Like, Minten can't make the team
he can play 9 games
play.
and then go back.
No, but what I'm saying is, and play 9 minutes. That's not good for his development. You can do that for 6, 7, up to 8, 9 games, but you have to do what's best for this kid overall. You're right. If
Well,
he
guess
makes
what?
the team,
Tomorrow night, play him 17. See what he does.
yeah. But you got.
But he's not going to be. He's not a number 1 or number 2 center.
That's
No
what I'm
kidding.
saying.
So
Like,
at
so
most,
that's-
he's going to play 12 or 13 minutes anyway.
In the end, I think he goes back to junior, but there's no harm in keeping him around and letting him continue to grow and play right now until they go, all right, send him back to junior. Like,
or he
Or he
plays
makes the
so
team.
well, they're like, all right, we're
Yeah,
going to keep you. I mean, it's been a
You
while
send him
since
back
that
to
happened.
Kamloops with a little wire contraption with a little stake out in front of it so he can sniff it and smell it, and he chases it all year. And you say, if you have a good year in Kamloops, you can get the stake.
Yeah,
Very simple.
Exactly. If you go back, make that Canadian team, factor into it, have a great year in Kamloops, and we'll see you next year.
Yep.
All right, Jason Strudwick in about 20 minutes. Jerry's percentages at 5:30. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Jason Strudwick coming up in about 10 minutes. The Edmonton Oilers are feeling good, right? Week away from opening night. Leafs are feeling good. They're up in Gravenhurst. They're back in action tomorrow against Detroit, and then Saturday against Detroit. I believe that's it.
Yeah, they got to you wonder how many games, if the big guys are going to play one more game each, or both.
Mm-hmm.
They usually have a heater lineup for one of the two games against Detroit. It's generally at home.
Yeah, that's what I would expect. And Samsonov's going to probably play another full game.
Yeah, he's
right?
got to play one more.
And then do you give Wall a full game? Like if
Well-
you're thinking Wall's going to be your backup?
Well, I think he's going to be the backup, but the interesting part is, and I've got to talk about it, I think, tomorrow, but who is the backup? If it's Joseph Wall, then no problem. Martin Jones going to go on waivers. He makes $875,000. He played 47 games and played really well for Seattle last year. I don't think he'll get through waivers. So Wall wouldn't make it through waivers because of his upside too. So there's a chance that you're going to lose one goaltender on waivers, which should be Martin Jones, who's not going to waive Wall. Now you're going to need a third goaltender because I'm butchering the third guy, Petruzzelli.
Petruzzelli.
Yeah. I don't know if like he's ready to be a 3 right now. He needs to continue to play.
So where the hell are you going to get a third goalie from?
You gotta. Martin Jones would have been the perfect 3 at 875. You can slide him through waivers because he can give you NHL minutes. I've talked about this ad nauseum. 108, 110 goalies played in the league last year. There's 64. Like there's 2 goalies per team. They should have 3 per team. It bothers me because now the Leafs are going to have to try and find somebody or grab somebody else at some point. Like
I just think
Jones.
even optically, Jamie, like just teams having a goalie around, it kind of looks Mickey Mouse. Where even the statement of what you just said, they got to hunt for a goalie now. It's nonsense.
It is.
Let them have 3 friggin' goalies.
Well,
like
how I feel about the e-bug and that. It bothers me.
Yeah, but it's not going to change this year. This is the way it's going to work. And sometimes what goes around comes around. Like Jones might get claimed, then he goes back on waivers. The
I
Leafs
agree.
pick him up again.
I could see the scenario of Jones getting taken, and you're right. He's back. If Tampa grabs him 2 months from now, if Vasilevsky's back,
goes back on waivers.
Goes back
the Leafs try to grab him.
The thing is, they try and grab him, and somebody lower in the standings grabs him.
Yeah, it's a tough spot because obviously the move was made with really sound reasoning.
100%.
You want the guy. He's a third option. He's a veteran. He was willing to take the deal, knowing he's probably going to the Marlies. That's a big part of it too. And it seems very likely Martin Jones will be claimed, and that means the pressure is going to be on Joseph Woll to really step up. You can't have another Jerry Sparks situation on your hands.
No.
Those great fans down in Tampa will be cheering on Vasilevsky when he comes back.
Yes, they absolutely will. I'm sure they will. Hour 2 coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.